So apparently there is a Last of Us remake coming. Not only is a Last of Us remake coming, but there's also a PlayStation 5 version of The Last of Us 2 coming. That's really not a big surprise. I think everyone saw that coming. The bigger surprise is that The Last of Us 1 is getting a remake, and they're likely going to package them both together to make it an easier sell to people that already have the game, as in people that already have The Last of Us Part 2. Now, what's more interesting, though, is the story behind the development of The Last of Us Remake, because Naughty Dog, probably Neil Druckmann, kind of pushed their way in and caused a little small studio startup within Sony to disband. Now, what's interesting is IGN doesn't really talk about all of this in their coverage of it. You have to go to the original source, which is the Bloomberg article, and they go over the entire story. Somebody apparently came to them with some inside knowledge and talked about how Sony pretty much kind of just gave this little team no respect and decided, hey, we're going to go ahead and let you make The Last of Us remake. And then Naughty Dog kind of pushed their way into it, which is a direct order probably from Neil Druckmann, who is a control freak and a narcissist. And he likely wanted complete control over the remake, because the interesting thing here is that the remake was being made by a studio outside of Naughty Dog. And you know, old Neil Druckmann, he's got to have complete control over everything because of his ego. So naturally, he got his way, and it got brought in-house. Now, the story is really interesting. I want to go over the story a little bit with you guys and talk about it, because I think the funny thing here is they don't mention Neil, but come on. Neil runs Naughty Dog. So let's talk about this, because it's pretty interesting, and it shows just how nasty Naughty Dog is. Don't forget, the same Naughty Dog that was copyright striking channels and trying to destroy people's lives last summer over their garbage Last of Us 2 remake, or Last of Us 2 game. I find it funny, though, that they're remaking the first one. I wonder what kind of depression quest Neil will put in the original, because you can't have that game be good. You know, we have to break that game down a little bit. So the story starts here with this small little group called Sony's Visual Arts and Service Group. Now, what they did was they would go around and help other studios complete their work. They call them unsung heroes in here. They're basically like a crisis team that comes in and helps a studio when they fall behind. And they note here that they helped with Spider-Man and Uncharted. And basically the leader here, Michael Mumbar, he's like, all right, well, we want to make our own games. We want to prove that we can be our own studio and that we can handle it. You know, we can do this. We can be creative too. So he formed a small little group, but they never got a name, and they never got a budget. And they started working on The Last of Us from 2013 because it'd be cheaper and easier, because most of the stuff in that game was already brought up to scale for the PlayStation 4. Remember, it was originally on the PlayStation 3, and then they made a PS4 version that was prettier and stuff like that. They were originally going to do Uncharted, but that was deemed a little bit too expensive because that was a first-generation PlayStation game. So they moved on to The Last of Us. And basically, over time, I'm kind of giving you the TLDR because this is a long article. Over time, as they were working on that, they actually made a small section of the game to show just how it could work, and they were going to present it. They were called T1X. And basically, this was a secret project. This was a project that nobody knew about. Sony was keeping it under wraps for some reason. But they needed to do more things with it. They needed more money, stuff like that. But then Last of Us Part 2 came up, and Sony moved them to go help with that game. So they had to move over there. Keep in mind, nobody knew about the Last of Us remake. So what I think happened, and the main thing I want to focus on is this bottom part of the article here. That's what we're going to read through, but I'm trying to catch up here. They went over to work on The Last of Us Part 2, and I think they started talking about their remake, and then Neil Druckmann probably put in some phone calls and got that slowly brought back under his house. So let me go over here. So let's start right here because this is where the juicy stuff starts. So they talk about how basically they were working on, after the completion of The Last of Us Part 2, people from Naughty Dog were sent to T1X to help out with the remake of the first one. And Mumbar's team, the guy who ran T1X, saw this as their freedoms being stripped away. Dozens of Naughty Dog staff were joining the project, and some had actually worked on the original The Last of Us, giving them more weight in discussions about T1X's direction. The game was moved under Naughty Dog's budget, which gave Neil Druckmann complete control, let's be honest, which Sony gave more leeway than the Visual Arts Service Group. Soon it was apparent that Naughty Dog was in charge, and the dynamics returned to what they had been for the last decade and a half, the Visual Arts Support Group aiding another team of developers rather than leading. And to me, this is Neil Druckmann unable to let somebody else work on his properties. There's been so much stuff that's come out about this guy and his inability to work with people when it comes to creativity. The original writer for the original Last of Us, and someone who worked on I think the second one for a minute. Her name was, I forget her last name, but it started with, her first name was Amy. She left because of him. And that's largely the reason that we got the second game that we got, because he had full creative control. And look what happened with that. He ran her out because he wanted to follow closer to Anita Sarkeesian's vision. So to me, I think he didn't like what they were doing, and he pushed his way in there. Now, this is just me speculating, right? But I think the key thing in here for me is that this was kept a secret. They went and worked for Naughty Dog to help out with the second one. And then all of a sudden, they found out about it, and I bet you that they were pushing their way in there to make sure that this got done how they wanted to get done. And you can say, yeah, well, it's their game and it's their vision, but at the same time, like, this is all Sony's property. Sony can do what they want with it, and I guess they did do what they want with it. They moved it back to Naughty Dog, but T1X started it, pushed for this. They weren't even going to make this remake. It was never even going to be made, but T1X wanted this to get made, and they wanted to prove themselves, and this is their chance to prove that they can create a game by themselves, and Naughty Dog came in there and kind of ruined that. And right now, T1 project remains in development at Naughty Dog with assistance from Sony, but most of the team from T1X by the end of 2020 had left, including Mumbar and the game's director, David Hall. So these guys quit. They're tired of it. So, now Naughty Dog has complete control of this game. Who even knows if it'll get done? They're still talking about doing that multiplayer in this, which I don't think is ever coming. But anyway, I thought this was interesting because, and I'm just speculating, but to me, Neil Druckmann just wanted to have control, and this new team who, to be fair, from what I understand, they weren't fired, they just left. But they left because they didn't want to work for Neil Druckmann, whose, sweatshop tactics are well known, except, of course, if you look too far into the media, they don't cover that. They don't talk about his sweatshop tactics. And they don't name him in any of these articles. They put his picture in here, which is funny. This is his picture right here, but they don't ever refer to him in this article. God knows IGN wouldn't, because IGN is a shill company who bends over backwards to lick the boots of Neil Druckmann. But anyway, interesting stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Also, if you would, please like, subscribe, share the video. Make sure you still subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out.